And a very good evening to you. Steve Morgan along with you on a special Sports Talk Live tonight, a show that you really don't want to do, but we're coming together to do it. My guest, David Camp, longtime friend of Mark Strider, and of course, Scotty Fagler, who was a colleague of him as he was doing the broadcasting. Once again, we are here to pay tribute and remember Mark Strider, who passed away this past Tuesday, and is at Pew Funeral Home. His funeral will be on Saturday. But as much as we want to get started on remembering Mark, we have to remember his wife, Beth, because she texted me a little bit earlier today, and more sad news as her family was traveling from Ohio, and they had stopped at a rest stop, and her mother passed away. So they had to turn around and go back to Ohio. So just incredible loss, and I can imagine how Beth is feeling with the passing of her husband, and now just finding out about the passing of her mother. When we think about Beth, I mean, she was well, first of all, she's just a wonderful person, and she was a wonderful caretaker, and she dearly loved Mark. And she was so waiting for her mom to come and just spread some joy and hugs, and now she has passed away. And once again, I got that word from Beth, and our thoughts and our prayers, and certainly our love from here at the radio station, the guys here, and everybody in the surrounding area. Beth, we're just praying for you, and we just want God to put his ever-loving arms around you and pick you up and carry you through this most difficult time. David?
Yes, Steve, really sad news on top of sad news, and we're all thinking of Beth now and her family, and just can't say anything but that we love them, and we're hurting for them, but praying for them and keep them in our thoughts and prayers, and I know Mark will be missed, and he's such a great guy, and we thought so much of him, and just got to know him over these last 10 or 12 years, and just a wonderful person, deep faith, loved his family, loved his country. That's evident by his military record. You know what that is. I'm sure we'll mention that as we go through here. But Mark was just a wonderful human being, and one of the nicest guys I ever met. Scotty, I'll hand it to you here, but I've never heard anybody say, when you talk about Mark Strider, there's one of those guys that couldn't say anything bad about him, because he's such a great guy, and just in all aspects of his life, wonderful guy, and a guy that everybody loved, and everybody liked, and knew what kind of person he was. Just a person of integrity and honesty, and couldn't say enough good things about him.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, thoughts and prayers out to the family. I think that's the most important thing right now is with the family. I mean, as we said, losing a loved one's a tough time. We've all had that feeling, but when you lose a loved one, and then on top of that, a couple of days later, you lose a mom or a dad, that's got to just add. It's just, I can't even really fathom the thought of what they're going through. But Beth, we're thinking about you. As Steve said, we love you and the family, the girls. I was thinking today about Mark. Me and one of my buddies, it's been a few years ago, was out at Tot Hill one afternoon playing golf. And it was late afternoon, not a whole lot of people out there, and we were taking our time playing, and kept noticing this guy behind us just hitting some good shots. And I'm like, we may have to let this guy play through. I ain't in no hurry. And he wasn't in a hurry either. Man, he just I'd watch him hit his stick. I couldn't really see who it was. So we get over to a couple holes on down where the par 5 runs into the par 3 there on the front. And somebody said, Scotty. And I said, well, I ain't going to lie to you, Mark. I'm not going to tell Steve how good you was hitting them shots, because he'll probably run and hide from you. But he joined us that day, and we played the last 12, 13 holes together. And, of course, he kept striping it right down the middle. But, guys, you're right. I mean, being here on the radio with Mark, we had a lot of special times. And I tell the story, and I'll tell it again, I guess as long as I live. First night over at McCrary, Steve, and we'd share times going. Steve couldn't go sometimes. I couldn't go. Mark couldn't go. But Mark and I are doing our first broadcast. Well, Steve knows how sometimes I'll drag in about, and if I know he's got the equipment, I'll come in 10 minutes before, and I like to get there sometimes and talk to people in the crowd. Not that he does, but I do. And so I get up and get in the box to do the game, and I look around, and there's an iPad. There's this notebook. There's this notebook. There's this paper. I just shook my head. Mark says, "Everything okay?" And I said, "Can't wait to get on, because I'm going to tell Steve we're going to have to up our game if we're going to keep up with you." But that's just who he was. He loved what he did. I spoke of it last night. Him and I got to go over and do the World Series over in Shelby with us, him and I, and it was a great trip. We had a great time there and on the way back, but just the thought of him loving what he did. Such a great guy. Even on the up at the Flying Pig on the Sports Talk Live nights on Monday nights, and Steve, a lot of times he'll sit back and let one of us take it over, and there for a few weeks during basketball, I can't come in as much, but you get there and Mark's more or less running the show and just loving every minute of it. And it was always good when him and Brandon, because I could always get at him about the Tar Heels a little bit. And but yeah, I love Mark Strider, and I'll miss him like we all will. But hey, we've dedicated the rest of the season softball to Mark, and as far as I'm concerned, the rest of the time we're on the radio for as long as I do it, if that's all right with Steve-O, which I know it is.
Sure it is.
And I'm going to hand it back over to Steve-O.
All right, so here we go. As we start with Mark, once again, Mark Strider was born right here in Ashburn in 1967, retired lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army, serving 2 overseas deployments in Afghanistan and 1 in Iraq. Born to Billy and Carolyn Strider. By the way, they are a phenomenal couple that I have met over the years, and they've taken me in just like a son. And I've been over to visit them, and we've had prayer together. And Billy and Carolyn, I love you, and I care about you. And I know you raised all your kids right. And I know Mark is one of the ones that is very special in my heart. He received 2 Bronze Stars while he was in the Army. He was employed as a director with the Randolph Hospital. He was a member of the Mid-State Rotary. I mean, it goes on and on with community stuff, part of hospice. He coached baseball and softball at North Ashburn Middle School, and this is where he got his love and dedication to kids. By the way, to his kids, Clayton, Jillian, and Brittany. Brittany is up in Ohio. I know the other night you said you were losing your hero. Well, I promise you had to share that, because he was a hero to a lot of people. He's survived by Beth, who we have talked about once again, Clayton in Charlotte, his son. Once again, Jillian in Charlotte, who's finishing up her college career. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Clayton is actually doing some student teaching, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, his daughter up in Ohio. Mark will lay in state tomorrow from 2 to 5, and then the family will receive friends from 5 to 7 unless something changes with that. Funeral will be on Saturday at 1 o'clock at Baffler Baptist Church. You can look at the obituary. There's be many ways to look at that service, and once again, it will be with full military honors. Dave, when we go through this, and we met Mark, we did meet him about 10 or 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Actually, I met him on a golf trip, and got to be friends with him. We stopped at Hamburger Joe's on the very first night we were there and met Dave Odom, head coach for Wake Forest. And when you first met Mark, you just sort of gravitated towards him. He was very witty, very funny. But Dave, I'm going to let you share some of the things that maybe you and Mark, I know y'all played a lot of golf together.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say you mentioned Carolyn and Billy. I knew Carolyn before I knew Mark because I used to I had a small desktop publishing business, and we did a newsletter for Sarah Lee, and Carolyn was the human resources director over at Sarah Lee, and so that's the person I worked with, and we'd get together, once a quarter or whenever we did the newsletter, and she'd give me all the things that go in it, and of course from time to time employees would put things about their family, and Carolyn occasionally gave me notes about her son who was in the Army and overseas and in Iraq, Afghanistan, wherever he was, happened to be at that time, and so I knew Carolyn before I knew Mark, and little did I know that a few years later, 6 or 8 years later, 10 years, when Mark came back and settled in Asheboro, and met him over at McCurry Park at probably a high school baseball game, probably when Clayton was playing for Asheboro High, and we got to talking and had a lot of common interests in golf and baseball, and just went from there, and I talked him into, then when I became general manager of the Copperheads, he had the Game On batting center, and I had started that, and I coached him into being a host family, and he and Beth so graciously opened their home to players, and just everybody that we put over there just thought the world of them, and they were just such a wonderful family, and they did such a great job with that, and Mark and I went to baseball games together, traveled on the road to see the Copperheads play when his players that he was hosting were playing, and just had such a great time getting to know him, and on the golf course and off the golf course as well. But he would open that batting center for players to come and hit. The Copperhead players, he'd go up there at odd hours in the mornings or whenever he was available, and open it up so they could hit, and when he was supposed to be closed, and he'd go up there and open it up and let them hit, and just did everything. Just an amazing guy, bent over backwards to do things to help other people, and that's what I remember so much about Mark. And I want to tell a little quick story about the military aspect of it. We went to Fayetteville to see the Copperheads play the Swamp Dogs, and one night, and we headed down the road, and Mark and I said, there's a way we can cut through the country down here and get to Fayetteville and avoid the traffic over there. And he said, yeah. He said, I know. He said, we'll go in the back way. We'll come in on Fort Bragg, and we'll go in on the back gate at the base and go through. We won't have to get on the main highway, and we'll miss that traffic. So I said, well, you'll have to tell me how to go. I don't know how. So he leads me out in the boondocks, and we're on this 2-lane road and nothing but woods on either side. And it looked like we were lost. We got to a place where there was a fence, a gate, and it was open. Wasn't anybody there. We went on through. And Mark said, now, when you get down the road here about a mile, there'll be a guard down here. And he said, we'll have to stop. And so sure enough, we rounded the corner, and we pulled up, and there's a couple guys standing in the road with guns. and I got a little hesitant, and Mark said, it'll be okay. So just pull up, and they'll ask us what we're doing. And sure enough, I rolled the window down, and a guy comes up with a rifle over his shoulder and said, sir, what's your business here? And once he said that, Mark was sitting on the passenger side, and Mark leaned over and flipped out his lieutenant colonel his military credentials, and a guy snapped to attention and saluted him and said, "Yes, sir. Go right on through."
Wow.
So we went right on through Fort Bragg on down to the ballpark. But I knew I was riding with somebody important that night.
Absolutely.
And I just love. I love to tell people that story because Mark got a kick out of that because he saw how nervous I was, especially when we pulled up and there the guys were armed, But we laughed about that, and I reminded him of that numerous occasions over the last 8 or 10 years. But anyway, just some other stories I can tell, but I'll let Scotty. He's probably got something else he can tell too.
All right, Scotty, how about it, partner?
Yeah, well, like I said, we talk about Mark enjoying the broadcasting side of it. I mean, he would get on. We were blessed to be able to, after he had talked so much to you about the ladies' fast pitch softball, and able to get it on. And he, the good thing about it, Steve, I said it, and I've got a picture where you and Mark and myself were at Southwest Randolph with our hats on, and Mark, it was funny because Mark came out and didn't have a big jacket. And of course, Steve, being the guy he is, he gave him a jacket right off his back. But we had such a good time that night, not knowing it would be the last time that he would be able to broadcast with us. But you think about the passion he had for it, and you have to have. I mean, goes all the way down to the state tournament because I was out of town. Steve-O couldn't go. Somebody needed to go. Sometimes, like tomorrow night, I'm going to St. Paul. Sometimes you got to go. Mark took it right under his shoulder, went on down, did it by himself. I think J.T. Boss helped him a game or two. Steve actually went with him and jinxed him and rained the game out.
Yeah, that's what I did.
But, I mean, that's the passion you have to have when you love to broadcast like we do and get the opportunity from 1260 94.9 to do it. But I tell you, many nights we just had a great time. And there was also those nights, Steve-O, that we did a little three-man action with you, Mark, and myself over at McCrary or wherever, just to throw a little extra in. I can remember the state tournament and the Rowan County game and all that. Mark was with us in.
Absolutely.
And those games, and we just, it's just such a great time. And you think back and look at what Mark's done. The one thing I always think, especially around American Legion baseball time, around the 4th of July and different things. And I always remember Steve, he would say, special thanks to Mark and his wife, Beth, both military. I mean, that was one thing you always did. And it always stuck in my mind. And then I see the obituary when Dorothy Keith had sent it to us the other day with Mark in his uniform and everything. I mean, it was just so touching just to see that. But again, it's just, like I said, you lose a friend, but you never forget them. And like I said, I said on social media the other day, Steve may have had something up or whatever, but one of my trademarks, I guess is what Larry Reed tells me it's a trademark, is when I say 1260, 94, 9, and I hang it. That little 9 goes a little longer. That's in tribute to Mark. So that's kind of how I want to end my thing here tonight, Steve, because I know you still got some stuff to say, but I'm gonna miss my friend, but I always love him.
Yeah. Mark was a special guy, and I got to meet him once again through golf, and then into broadcasting, and he did such a wonderful job at that state tournament. Holy cow, he used to cut him loose. Mark was talented enough in broadcasting, and the little bit that he did, he could have carried on another route, really, if he wanted to. He was that good. He was that prepared. He reminds you a lot of some of the ESP announcers that are just so prepared when they get on that he could just do it off the fly, and he always did such a wonderful job. But I remember one weekend we were on a golf trip, and it was senior night for Clayton, David, and he said, I'm going to go back to see Clayton. I said, well, man, I'm going to ride with you. So I rode with him, and we did senior night. And then we got back up Saturday and came back to the beach. And I'm telling you, this is how important family was to him. When Jillian was playing softball, he said that she was pitching all the time. He took those kids and he molded those kids not only to be winners on the field, but to be winners in life. And he got them at such a young age. And his whole family is nothing but winners. His brother is a winner that lives up in Virginia. Actually, was in the military. And when you look at Mark, overall, he made you a better person. You didn't have a choice. When you're around Mark Strider, you were a better person. I remember him having so much dignity about himself, him being such a family man, loving his wife, loving his parents, and when you got all that going for you guys, you've got the complete package. And Mark had the complete package. I remember that he got to meet my dad, who was a World War II vet, Battle of the Bulge, and that really intrigued Mark, and Mark was very interested, and we did go get to meet at his favorite place, really his only place, over there at College Barbecue, and my dad was so impressed with the demeanor of Mark and him being in the military. You heard stories between them. And I often asked my dad, I said, Dad, when you got around Mark, the stories really came out. And I said, I really never heard a whole lot of stories from you about World War II. And he said, listen here, son, you didn't hear them because you'd never understand them. He said, you would never understand war. And the brotherhood that you had with people and the brotherhood that got killed around you, and you still have to trudge on. So that intrigued Mark. We could go on. Mark was such a special person to not only me, but to everybody that he touched. Touched Randolph Hospital. He worked at Goodyear. He also, spent time with Randolph Community College, and once again, just giving of himself with all these many different things that he was a part in this community. This is huge. This is huge, and this is what made Mark so special. He was always giving of the time, probably not giving enough time to himself, but giving times to others, and that's just the way he operated, and that's just the way he was. To his kids, I thank you, and Beth, and to Billy and Carolyn. I thank you for sharing Mark, because that's what you did with so many people. You shared his love, his dignity, his pride, his pride in the USA. Thank God for people like Mark and Beth, and all the service people that go out to protect this country, guys. It is first and foremost, and we remember Memorial Day, and we remember the 4th of July, and we remember Veterans Day. Let me tell you something. We need to remember these folks every day, because we're in a free country, and we got our issues. I understand that, but it's still a free country where you and me and Dave Camp and Mark could go out anytime and go play golf. I mean, that's just, people in the military work hard to keep this freedom for us. So I salute every single one of them. Tonight I salute Mark and the time that we were able to spend together, not only on the golf course, but the times we spent. My dad had passed away just about a year ago. Mark had found out that he had this terrible cancer. But do you know, it was the Monday after my dad passed away, here came Beth and Mark up in their truck and brought me a cake. And that was the time that we couldn't hug anybody, folks, because we were in all this COVID protocol. And I think really we were more scared about it than what we really knew about it. And I know it was a very, very powerful disease that went on in our pandemic country. But that was the kind of person he was. Not feeling well, I understood that. But still, him and Beth riding up, taking their time. That's just who they were. I got to visit Mark a couple times here in the last couple months to visit him, just to say hey and that I love you. And we had prayer together. And once again, most of the time got to see his mom and dad and of course, Beth. And I got to see some other family as I went over there. Tonight, as we close, Scott, do you have any other closing remarks?
No, again, just special thoughts and prayers out to the family. Keep them in your thoughts and prayers. And as you said, we're gonna miss Mark, but again, we won't forget him. Because I know when we're on the radio, we've been talking and we'll continue to talk about him. But again, when you hear that little extra 9 on the end, Steve-O, you know what it means.
That's for Marcus. Davey?
Well, I know, Steve, you and I got a little golf outing coming up in a couple of weeks, and Mark is usually part of it. He won't be there this time, but we'll be thinking about him, and we'll always remember him. He had such a great time on those trips that we used to take down to Myrtle Beach to play golf and Pinehurst to play golf, and we always used to wake up every morning wanting to see what color shoes Mark put on that day.
He was a dynamic dresser, that is for sure.
We did, and they might be red, they might be blue, they might you didn't know what color they were going to be, but we always gave him a hard time about that. But we're going to miss that. We love him. We love Beth and Clayton and Jillian and Brittany and Carolyn and Billy and the whole family, and just know that we're thinking about you, and just cherish those great memories that you have of Mark. What a wonderful man he was, and a great friend to all of us. We miss him.
As we close tonight, I want to thank WKXR for allowing us to come in and do this for Mark. As we close, we have to remember that Mark loved life. And the last few months, and really the last year, Mark was not living the life that he loved. But he was a fighter, and his whole family fought with him, tooth and nail, to give Mark every opportunity to. But cancer just wins out too many times. Cancer, and I don't use the word hate very often, and I won't use it tonight, but I don't like it. I don't like it at all. We've got to do something to get this under control. Beth, we're thinking about you on the passing of your mother. Thank you for the note today, and our thoughts, our prayers, our arms are around you. Your ever-loving God has got Mark in a wonderful place right now. He's also got your mother in a wonderful place as well, as they are probably chatting right now up in the heavens. My dad always said, if you look up in the stars and up in the skies, if you don't think there's something more powerful than what's on earth, he said, you got to look a little deeper. Well, I've looked deep for the last couple of days, and I do realize there's a higher power that has got Mark and now has got Beth's mother. I love you, Mark. I love Beth. I love the whole family, Billy and Carolyn. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of that big, beautiful family you had. Mark, we're going to miss you. I cry about it every day, but I love you, and I know you're in a far better place than we are right now. Beth, we love you, and I know that you're going to miss your mother. Beth will be doing the funeral for Mark and then be traveling up to Ohio. Our thoughts and our prayers once again. We want God to put his ever-loving arms around this whole family, pick them up, carry them through this darkness, and bring them back on the other side. For David Camp and Scotty Fagler, one more time, we say goodbye to Mark. We don't want to, but it was time. So long, everyone.